Mike Happe serves as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Winnebago Industries. He is also on the company's board of directors. Most recently, Mike served as an Executive Officer and Group Vice President at the Toro Company. And during his 19 years at Toro, he held a series of senior leadership positions across a variety of Toro's domestic and international divisions. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in journalism from the University of Kansas, and he also received a Master's of Business Administration degree from the Carlson School at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. It's always a great joy to welcome an alumnus back to speak at this event, and he's very, very active in several community, academic, and industry initiatives and boards as well. So please welcome Mike Happe to the podium.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Well, thank you, Shri, for the kind introduction, and it is great to be back on the university campus. Kate, what a great presentation. I think we're all excited for early April's events here in the cities and the work that you and your team are doing to showcase the great community that we have here. Shri mentioned that I do have an undergrad degree from the University of Kansas. And when you go to a school in Lawrence, Kansas, you tend to become a college basketball fan. So I had the opportunity last year to take 3 of our 4 children down to San Antonio for the Final Four experience. And they put on a great show as well down there on the Riverwalk. And I can't wait to see what our hometown here executes here in April. And I hope Coach Patino and Coach Self at KU, I hope their teams are successful here as the March Madness begins. I would like to recognize as well some folks that are with us today. I have a great team of leaders from Winnebago Industries who are sitting with us, and they do the heavy lifting. This speech for them will be a little bit monotonous, but they are breathing life into our vision and our mission every day. And then my wife, Shannon, who's the true CEO of our family, we live out in Eden Prairie. She's with us as well today. So I want to thank both Shannon and my team here at Winnebago. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about driving transformation at Winnebago Industries. And outside of the connection that I have with the Carlson School of Management here at the University of Minnesota as an alum, what some of you may or may not know is that about 2.5 years ago, Winnebago Industries started to create a formal presence here in the Twin Cities. And so while we're flying a little bit under the radar against some of the great institutions and organizations we have here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, we are leveraging this community to hopefully build success for our business and for our brands going forward. But I want to tell you about what's going on at Winnebago and hopefully excite you about not only what's happening at our company, but the way in which we're doing it, and hopefully the outcome that each of you may be able to participate in the future. As Shri said, I do have an MBA here from the Carlson School in 1996. I will tell you there are several transformative moments in my life, meeting my wife being one of them, but having the opportunity to get an MBA from the Carlson School is certainly right up there. I was 23 years old when I applied to the Day MBA school back in 1994. And I was very fortunate that they took somebody who was so inexperienced in business and very candidly naive. And I was so naive that when I heard the acronym SEC, I thought it was the Southeastern Conference. I don't really want to have anything to do with the SEC today either. But the reality is when I started my experience at the Carlson School, it really launched me into learning about a universe of business philosophies and cases and lessons. But it also started my journey in terms of a network of colleagues at the school, certainly great professors. And I'm fiercely proud of that degree, but more importantly, the role in which the Carlson School and the University of Minnesota play in the success of not only the region, but ultimately the nation here. I will tell you that it is a luxury to have this asset here in our community. And so much so that we're starting to utilize it now as we build a presence. Professor Art Hill, who I think I saw earlier, he came in and helped our team here within the last year around building an integrated business planning process within our motorhome business. What I used to call sales and inventory planning at Toro, where I spent 20 years. But Art is, I mean, his reputation precedes himself, and he's just a tremendous teacher and consultant. And so we asked him to help us build an IBP process in one of our businesses, and that's really getting launched. So thank you, Professor, and for your work. Let's show you a little bit about what's going on in Winnebago. So that makes me run through a wall too, Kate, right? So the exhilaration that that individual is screaming about on top of one of our products, and we don't always condone them being up there very long, but that's the emotion that our business creates. We are in the memory building business at Winnebago. And we've been there since 1958. Our company is just celebrating our 61st anniversary here this month in February. And we are incredibly proud and certainly biased of the brand that we've built at Winnebago in the recreational vehicle industry over those 61 years. And you saw some clips in that short video about some of our past products, and you probably saw a few things that maybe some of you weren't expecting to see as well that I'll talk about here as well. But we are fiercely proud of our brand and of our history and of the pioneering spirit that we have. And so we are trying to essentially respect that legacy, but not rest on it. We have the #1 brand in recreational vehicles. The challenge is that that brand has been aging. I will test sometimes the waiters that I have at restaurants, and I will pull out the corporate card and I will say, do you recognize the brand? And I will tell you increasingly, the younger generation of waiters are not as familiar with our brand, even though I think we've got one of the greatest brands in American business. And so we have this history, #1 brand awareness, and #1 most preferred brand through independent research in our industry. The challenge is, as I'll talk later, we had and still have a close rate issue on that awareness and that preference. And so through the years, what really has been a great company started to get a bit tired. And I say this all extremely respectfully to the incredible folks back at our company that work hard every day and have for decades. But our brand started to tire a bit. And the board was faced with a decision about what to do. We had collective share of less than 3% of the entire RV industry. Think about that. The #1 brand in the business had less than 3%. We had fallen from #1 to #3 in motorhomes. We had less than 1% share in towables, which is 87% of the units and 70% of the dollars. If you had bought a share of our stock in 2005, at the end of 2015, that share was worth less over those 10 or 11 years than it was when you first bought it. And we were starting to see our relationships with our dealers diminish. We were starting to see our product lines, not all of it, but some of it get tired. And so, to the credit of our board back in 2015, they said, it's time for a change. And so they went looking for fresh energy, a new face, probably a new voice, but someone who could ignite and build upon this legacy that I've referenced and take us to hopefully stronger days in the future. And so I had the privilege, after 20 tremendous years at a great company here in town called the Toro Company, to pick up the phone from a recruiter one day and start to listen to the story that the board was telling of what they wanted to create here. And so for me, this is a combination of not only obviously personal leadership, but it's almost a Harvard or Carlson business case about how to go from good to great, how to turn this incredible legacy into something even stronger. And so our board of directors in January of 2016, when I had the privilege to join, they gave me 3 priorities as the first outside CEO in the history of the company. They said, restore leadership in motorhomes, that core business, those units that you drive behind. That really had been Winnebago's just core, just the sweet spot. Restore leadership in motorhomes. Number 2, become relevant in towables. We had less than 1% share in 87% of the market. And our 2 competitors, Thor and Forest River, who combined for 90% share of our industry, were candidly eating our lunch because they were monopolizing the towable segment, and they were using those profits to attack us on the motorhome side. So the board said, let's try to figure out a way how to compete and become relevant in towables. And number 3, and this is the one that really got me excited, is, Mike, let's try to figure out how to drive profitable growth and diversification. In 2004, Winnebago Industries was $1.1 billion in revenue. In 2009, we were $211 million in revenue. We lost 85% of our business in the great financial crisis. RVs are something you want. They're not something you need. And so the board never wanted to go through that near-death experience. And to the testament of great leaders at our company back in 2009, we stayed solvent. We stayed independent. We did not file bankruptcy. And as a public company, we did not have any activists come on our board and say, this is how you should run your business. But the board survived that moment with our management team. And as we started to grow back between 2010 and 2015, we grew, but our competitors were growing faster. And so the board said, Mike, in addition to motorhomes and towables, how do we create something different? Wow, that was awesome. That was permission to think big. It was permission to get out of a box and go back to the team and go, what does that mean? And so one of the first things we did was we got employees together and we said, we need to create a vision and a mission and a purpose, and what are our guiding beliefs and our values, and we're going to document those, and we're going to believe in those, and we're going to speak from this Bible, and we're going to bring this to life in our business. It's not going to describe who we are as much as who we can become. And so what you're seeing is probably version 2.0, but it's not much different than version 1.0. And a couple key comments of this slide are you don't see the word recreational vehicles on here. Even though 98% of our business at the time this was created was recreational vehicles. And it still is today, candidly. But what we talked about was becoming a premium outdoor lifestyle company, where we essentially enable extraordinary experiences for our customers as they travel, live, work, and play. And we're going to do that through quality, innovation, and service. And we're going to try to have our customers be lifetime advocates for our brands and our company. They may someday not use our products anymore, but gosh dang it, they're going to say to their friends and family, you should buy products from Winnebago Industries. And so we've created this to be our North Star, to be what wakes us up every day and says everything we're doing has to be tied back to that. And so I started to recruit a new team around the company to try to bring this to life. 2 of the people on the screen on my team were acquired through acquisitions, 2 were there at the company, and 6 others, including myself, were hired. And this is the team that are leading thousands to try to pull this together. We have a board of directors with 7 independent members. 6 of the 7 board of directors are new within the last 3.5 years. 80% of the employees are the same. But we are starting to infiltrate with talent and hopefully over time more diversity, and new fresh energy to blend with the experience that we have. And so we've been pretty consistent over the last 3 years about 5 core strategies and priorities at our company. And we may be getting to the point where we can start to tweak these, but these have been central to the turnaround that we're undertaking at our company. Number 1, build a high-performance culture. One of my mentors at Toro was a gentleman named Mike Hoffman, also an MBA grad from Carlson. And one of Mike's greatest lessons to me was take care of your people, right? You often get asked, who's more important, your customers or your employees? Mike and me, and now hopefully many others, answer that the same way every time. It's your employees. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. And so we have to build a high-performance culture, right? Accountable, competitive, one with integrity, respect, and trust. We want to strengthen and expand our core RV business. We will forever be an RV company. It is who we have been, it is who we are, it is who we will be, but we will surround that with other pieces that have golden threads to that core. But we are coming back with fierceness in our core RV business. We also want to elevate excellence in operations. I said one of the other reasons I didn't join, besides the lack of a vision, was that our operations were not as efficient as they should be. We are incredibly focused on employee safety, product quality, and continuous improvement now, more so than we ever have been. We want to leverage innovation and digital engagement. It is a new world. Customers, they want to go out and they may want to get off the grid in their RVs, but they want to take that panoramic shot and put it on Facebook. The kids want to still snap their friends. Got to keep those streaks going. But we have to figure out how to stay connected with our customers before, during, after the sale. And it's not just anymore about how much power these things have and what the transmission is like and the towing capacity of your pickup truck. It's about how connected you can be in the outdoors. And then lastly, expand to new profitable markets. What the board didn't say was find counter-cyclical markets. We have one of the country's most cyclical industries. And if you don't believe it, look at our stock price, right? When I got to Winnebago, it was $16.67. Through a lot of hard work from our team, it ran to 58, and today it's 29. We haven't changed a lot between 58 and 29. We've made almost every quarter since then. But our industry is very, very cyclical. We are on the razor's edge going into recessions, and we're actually one of the first industries coming out of the recessions. And I will tell you right now, our business is slowing. And it is important for us to manage that with a highly variable cost structure, but also potentially it gives us further motivation to surround ourselves with other revenue streams. But we want to expand to new profitable markets. And so a couple of the markets that we're now spending a lot of time in are the RV industry, which is a $27 billion business in the US, and the marine industry, which is a $38 billion market. Why marine? For us, it's about 2 things. The value chain, from a product design and manufacturing and channel and service standpoint, are actually quite similar. But for me, more importantly, emotionally, these are experiences that you have with your family and friends. And our products are mediums to outdoor experiences with family and friends. And so these are 2 industries we've started to spend more time on. But we're defining ourselves as outdoor lifestyle so that our ocean is $734 billion in size. We should never run out of great ideas on where else we can grow, so long as we tie that growth to our core competencies and our vision and our purpose and it makes sense. The idea of our portfolio has to be that the businesses are greater together than they would be if they were separate or standalone. So this is our business model as we're evolving. We used to be a 1-division company back in the early 2000s. We were 98% motorhomes, and when I joined, we were 93% motorhomes. Today, we have an RV business. We acquired a great company called Grand Design. I'll talk about that in a second. We now have started a marine business. In June of 2018, we acquired Chris-Craft, a 144-year-old iconic boat brand. the best brand in the world in boats. It's not the biggest business, but it's the biggest brand. And so the great thing about that brand, it is the Aston Martin of the boating industry. And so it is exactly the type of customer experience and product experience that we want to add to our portfolio. We're not going to be the biggest, but we certainly want to be the best. And so Chris-Craft is our first investment into marine. We are trying to stand up a specialty vehicles business. We want to get that to $100 million in size at a minimum, and then we'll see where we go, but that's about accessibility enhanced product for people with disabilities. In RVs, it's about mobile medical, not ambulances, but mobile medical. It's about electric vehicles. So our goals, we're putting goals in front of our team. We want to go to 10% market share in RVs from less than 3 years ago. We want to get to 10% or more by the end of fiscal 2020. We're at 9 today. We've tripled our market share in 3 years. We want to get to 10% operating income by the end of F2020. We were a little bit over 7.5 when I had the privilege to join the company. We're approaching 9 in this fiscal year. We want to have 10% of our revenue by the end of F20 come from businesses we either weren't in outside of the RV industry or segments within the RV industry that we have never competed in. And there's actually a big one in towables called Stick and Tin, which is a certain type of travel trailer that we have never been in, and we've just now started to get into that high volume category. And lastly, on the culture side, we have a goal every year at the company that every one of our 4,600 employees is involved in at least one initiative, and hopefully more, around safety, quality, productivity, or giving. And I'll talk about the importance of giving here shortly. This is what excites me about where we're going in our motorhome business. This is the Winnebago Revel. This is the sensation right now in the motorhome RV industry. We cannot order enough 4x4 Mercedes Sprinter chassis vans, right, and get enough. This is constantly sold out. It is for the extreme explorer, the adventurer who wants to get off the grid. Go to #vanlife and see what the millennials and the Xers are doing to get out of the urban communities and get away for the weekends or for long weeks. And they're taking vans and they're retrofitting them and they're going hiking and biking and kayaking and you name it. They want to get off the grid, get away, and have experiences. The definition of our American dream in 2019 is no longer the house in the suburbs with the white picket fence and the kids and the dogs. It's the experiences that you can collect. And the Revel is an experience. And this retails for manufacturers suggested retail of $140,000, and we can't keep them in stock. And kudos to our team for being in tune with our customers for what they want to have. It's not your classic 40-foot diesel motorhome, but this is part of the future. This is the fastest growing segment in motorhomes. This is from our Winnebago towables business. We have doubled our Winnebago towable sales. We have tripled our profits. And we used to only have Winnebago motorhomes, and the cheapest you could get into one of our products was $80,000. Now you can get into a Winnebago branded RV at $20,000, not this one, but another one for $20,000. This one's probably $35,000, right? But you can get into our brand now, have a positive experience, and graduate. This is a mini fifth wheel. Fifth wheels are towables that offer you a little bit more space. They kind of have that upper level. You hitch it to sort of the bed of your pickup truck. These are very popular in the towable segment, but you need an F250 or 350, and they aren't always the easiest to maneuver. This is a 7-foot wide mini fifth wheel, and you can use a Ford Ranger or a Chevy Colorado. And this is now going to start to open up towables to people that have never experienced RVs before. The great thing about the auto industry is that they've went to pickup trucks and SUVs and crossovers, and 85% of the vehicles today can tow something. It bodes very well for us. Grand Design. This is the transformative moment at our company in the 3 years. We wanted to get into towables. We were very fortunate to get hooked up in June of 2016 with a company called Grand Design. which has become the fastest growing RV brand and company in the history of the RV industry. They have went from $0 in 2012 to $1 billion as we sit here today. We bought them for $522 million. They had $480 million of revenue at the time we bought them in November of 2016, and they've doubled that in the last 2 years. We've gotten a decent return on that high-risk investment. But these guys are designing product right. They have a great dealer model with exclusivity. They treat their customers incredibly well. They're creating passionate, connected relationships with their customers. These are some of their end customers out at their business in Indiana. But Grand Design now is the hottest brand in the RV industry. Winnebago is the most well-known, but if you go on RV blogs, it's all about Grand Design right now in the towable segment. And we're so fortunate to have in our portfolio great talent, great ideas, great product, quality innovation and service, and they are fueling growth in other parts of our portfolio. And then the electric vehicles. The specialty vehicle business is one that we hope to grow business to business. High profitability, we can incubate technology. It's going to be a while until there are mainstream electric RVs on the road, but this is a product that people are using out in California or Maine or other parts of the country for mobile medical applications. Or you could do an electric vehicle around a bookmobile, where this has an average range of 85 to 125 miles, and so a fixed charging station. But this is part of the permission to grow differently. Use our knowledge around mobile vehicles. Use our chassis knowledge, our shell knowledge, and then work with a great team to kind of build out a B2B business. And lastly, Chris-Craft, I mentioned them earlier. Now we're into marine, and there are some great companies. I know Scott Wine was here last month, and Polaris has made 2 significant bets now into the marine industry as well, and we really don't compete with Polaris in our mind. Great company, but we really aren't heads-on with them. But we are looking to find right choices in the very high-end marine segment. Again, premium brands, premium products. Remember, a $30-some billion industry just in the US alone. A third of their business comes from outside the US. You go to the boat show in Italy or Dusseldorf, Germany, or Australia, and you'll see the Chris-Craft banner flying high. So last thing as I wrap up, none of this would be possible without engaging our employees. These are the 4 things we've been very focused on with the 4,600 employees. Give them a purpose. Give them that true north. You're not just hooking a battery up in an RV. You're not just putting the steering wheel into the console. You are creating a medium for memories and experiences, right? We are building not just an RV company, but an outdoor lifestyle company. Number 2, communicate. One of the first questions I asked some folks when I got to the job was, hey, when's the next all-staff meeting or team meeting? And it was like, yeah, we don't really do those. We weren't really sharing what the scoreboard was. We weren't really talking about where we were going and how we needed the employees to be bought in and be engaged. And so we've overhauled a lot of our internal communication processes. As a public company from 1970, I strongly believe in the value of ownership. I truly believe if that you're an owner of the company, you will share in the fruits of our labor long term, and you will think differently as an owner versus just an employee. 98% of our employees were not owners of our company. We restarted with shareholder approval an employee stock purchase program a year and a half ago, and we gifted every single one of our employees shares in our company. And when the Corporate Tax Reform, Tax and Jobs Cuts Act or whatever was, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was passed, we gave our employees more shares as well. We want our employees to be owners of the company. And lastly, we want them to give of their time, treasure, and talent to the communities. We were making around $40 million net income back in 2015, and we were giving away $125,000. Unacceptable. Today, we make more than $100 million in net income, and we are going to be giving away 7 figures financially, and more importantly, we're going to be asking our employees to give thousands of hours to their community, backed by the company's support. We want them to give so that the communities get on board with what we're trying to do as well. So here's our geographic map as we wrap up. Very Iowa-centric. We are still legally headquartered in the state of Iowa. We have 2,700 employees roughly down in the state of Iowa. Forest City is our home. We have an executive office in Eden Prairie with 70 full-time people, but less than 2% of our full-time employees, work here in the cities. But we now have expanded outside of Iowa into Oregon and Indiana and Florida and Minnesota. So our footprint is growing and our business is starting to grow global. And the transformation is starting to happen. And it's not as easy as what it sounds like during this fun presentation. It is hard work every day that the team is doing it is always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But we have doubled our revenue. Our net income has grown by 2.5. We've almost tripled our adjusted EBITDA. Our share is approaching 9. Our share price, you need Dramamine if you want to follow or own our stock. Our market cap was once near $2 billion. It's now closer to $1 billion. Our EPS is growing. We have more employees. But this is only part of the dashboard. Hopefully, when you come to Winnebago now, you feel the energy back, the pride of our 61-year-old legacy, but the energy about creating something special. So that when we celebrate our 75th and our 100th anniversary, we'll still be independent, we'll be incredibly successful, our employees will be core to who we are, we'll be giving back to the communities, and we'll be leading our industries, maybe not as the biggest, but as the company that everybody aspires to be like or own. So that's our Winnebago story, and you'll hear more about it in the state of Minnesota, certainly as we grow up a little bit more. But as I hope you can tell, I'm incredibly excited about the privilege of leading this team and this business, and I just encourage you to get out and get in a boat or an RV. Our RVs have TVs free, so you can watch the Final Four too if you're not here. But we just appreciate the opportunity to tell our story about what Winnebago Industries is building. So thank you again for the invitation to be here.
Yes. Talk a little bit more about why move north from Iowa and centralize your core team here.
Yeah, a very culturally important question. As you can imagine, 61 years now with headquarters in Forest City. So Forest City, you go an hour and 45 minutes down I-35 south, you take a right or west on Highway 9 and you go 15 or 20 miles, and it's literally 2 hours from here roughly. My first year with the company, as Shannon knows this very well, I put about 40,000 miles on my Jeep Grand Cherokee, going back and forth and down there. Very proud community. A group of half dozen businessmen started the company in 1958, 4,100 people, 900 of them work for our company. Another, 2,000 or so people work for the company in Waverly, Lake Mills, Charles City. So we're incredibly important to that region. It was really the board's decision when they decided to go outside for new leadership that they also wanted to put a flag in a larger market. Again, I say this extremely respectfully because tremendous people, and I grew up in Northwest Iowa in Sioux City, so I have a lot of respect for the state, and it is harder to attract talent that we need to compete to be a global successful company, only competing from that market. And so it's still where the heartbeat is, but it is, we need to have a more diverse geographic footprint in order to compete more effectively and get talent. Most of the individuals you saw on the ELT slide, with all due respect to them and their families, they probably wouldn't have moved to Forest City. But now they're on our team because they're based out of the Twin Cities. And I don't really care if they're in the Twin Cities office. They need to be where they need to be to run the business. But we got them from Target, General Mills, Ecolab, Polaris, Honey. We got them because we had a flag here. So it's a sensitive matter, but it's something we're trying to balance. So.
You made a comment about not doing a counter-cyclical expansion. Why not?
We haven't found one yet. Is probably the right answer to that, to be honest. It's not like we're averse to that, believe me. When I was at Toro, it was more of a seasonal business, certainly some cyclical, but this is really cyclical. We want to stay true to our core about outdoor lifestyle. And so if we can find counter-cyclical, mobile, outdoor lifestyle businesses, we'll certainly be interested in that. What we didn't want to pass up, though, were revenue opportunities for businesses that seemed to make sense. Here's the interesting thing. When a recession comes, motorhomes get hurt the worst because they're the most expensive. And so just by investing in towables, and even boats, as crazy as it seems, they're a little less cyclical than RVs. We are actually less cyclical today. 85% of our expense structure is variable. And right now, to be very honest, and we're very bullish that we'll outperform the industry, but you know, we're entering some difficult times, more difficult times. So yes, I'd love to add that over time, but you know, we'll see if that can be one of the lenses. We just don't want to be so myopic on counter-cyclical that it takes us away from some other natural adjacencies.
We have time for one more question in the back of the room.
I'm glad to see that you were in 1996 here because of the diminisher program then. But I wanted to compliment you because when Toro hires a lot of our Carlson graduates, and I hope you'll do the same at Winnebago, but I also want to know how you chose Eden Prairie, and is there going to be room for expansion when Winnebago gets growing to grow in Eden Prairie or the surrounding suburbs?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So Eden Prairie, it's a little bit of a funny story. I have Brett Woodson, one of our VP of HR administration, knows the story well, but when we first put a flag in the market, it was in Burnsville, and it was in Burnsville because it was pointed towards Forest City, right? It was south, right, the South Metro. I always wanted to have our office here at Winnebago in the cities to be somewhat South Metro because, again, Forest City is so important to us. And so we wanted people to be able to jump on I-35 real quick and to be respectful to the people that we would ask to come up at times. We worked with CBRE, you know, national firm, but, you know, strong local office here to look for an office. I live in Eden Prairie. The one market they weren't allowed to look in was Eden Prairie for a new office. Guess where we put the office? Eden Prairie. It just ended up being, we found a building that we have 33,000 square feet and a 6-year lease at the time, and it was just a good space for the right price in the South Metro. With all due respect to the civic leaders in Eden Prairie, it wasn't about that community as much as there was an affordable space. We are not rushing any moves to build further resources here just because. I know how great this business community is, but when we make moves for the business, it has to make sense for the business. So size of office, number of employees, where we put it, whether we call it our headquarters or not, all of that will happen in due time if it's the right thing for our business. We're focused on the business right now, not necessarily where, you know, what offices are called. So, but Shri, thank you again for the opportunity. So.
I think you'll agree that it was an amazing story of transformation. I'm just so proud of you, Mike. So thank you for that talk. Anyway, next month we have another great speaker coming through, and I believe next month we have Jeff Harmoning, the CEO of chairman of the board at General Mills, as our speaker. We hope to see you here. Meanwhile, stay warm and most importantly, drive safely today. Thank you.